Hello everyone, it's good to be back. I'm Brian.
And I'm Austin.
And if you don't quite remember, we're the Sports Bandits. This year we're going to try out some new formats for our show, a lot less talking about games and more answering questions, and more specifically, your questions. That's right, we're going to try to use the social media, Facebook, Twitter, to have you guys ask us questions, and we'll try to answer some of your questions on our show. This week we decided to go with our own questions about the best of college football. First thing we're going to talk about is the best team in college football this season. Austin, what do you think?
Well, I tried to resist all temptations of being a homer throughout this entire show, but this is the one place where I gave into that weakness, and I'm going to be a homer and say that Oklahoma is the most complete team. The toughest test of the season has got to be at FSU, and they get the advantage of having 2 weeks to prepare for that game, and more importantly, giving 2 weeks for injured players to get healthy. Ronell Lewis is still questionable, of course, for their first game at Tulsa. Hopefully that extra time will make him 100% for FSU. And there's even some talk that Travis Lewis will be back for the Florida State game. So we'll see how that works out. The only concern I see for Oklahoma is on the defense with injuries to Ronell Lewis right now, Travis Lewis, and the loss of Austin Box. There's definitely a vulnerability at the linebacker position, and that's the one way I could see teams taking advantage of Oklahoma. But as soon as Travis Lewis gets back in there, I expect that defense to be sure to.
Oh yeah, I definitely see Oklahoma as a national power this year, but I'm going to have to go with Alabama on this one. And I know you don't agree with me, but I have to go with defense. The last 5 years, the SEC has won the title, and their big stable is defense. This year, Alabama returns most of its defensive starters from last year. And granted, they did lose most of their offensive starters, but if you can only score 6 points a game, but the other team scores 0, you still win. So I really like Alabama this season. If they can get past a couple road tests at Auburn and the SEC, you're just going to have road tests, especially in that West Division. If they can get through those, I really think that they're going to be a great team, make a great push for a national championship.
Well, our next best category would be best player. I'm going out to Stanford, to Palo Alto, and going with Andrew Luck. He was the Heisman runner-up last year. I think he's going to be the front runner most of the season this year. I think it's his award to lose. If he can put up the numbers like he did last year, and he can lead his team to the BCS, get the Pac-10 BCS bid, he stands a great chance to be back in New York and actually be lifting up the trophy this time. Experienced quarterback. He got to play some a couple years ago. He started all last year. Could have been the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft if he went this year, but didn't. 70% completion percentage last year. He's an extremely talented quarterback.
Oh, I agree with you. Andrew Luck will be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, but I do not think he will win. I think that we're going to go out on a limb here and say that Justin Blackmon is going to take the Heisman this year. Now, I think his talents get a little underrated because people give Brandon Weeden a lot more credit than he deserves. Justin Blackmon is such a great player that he makes Brandon Weeden look like a Heisman candidate. But Weeden is not as good of a quarterback as a lot of people think. Justin Blackmon is that good of a receiver. You can watch film, and Justin Blackmon will beat his man by 5 yards, but have to come back to make a catch that Brandon Weeden underthrew. He just makes everyone on his team look so much better, and I think OSU has the potential to make a big, deep run this season and be a real national power, and I really feel that that'll rest all on Justin Blackmon's shoulders, and I think he will be the one that will put up the biggest stats, win tons of awards this season, including the Heisman.
Really? That's a bold statement coming from you. I didn't think I'd ever hear you say something
like
that. Well, our next category is best sleeper team to make the BCS. Our qualifications for this were teams that were outside the top 15. Brian, who would you pick?
Well, I didn't go that far outside the top 15, and I know you don't really agree with them as a sleeper, but I went with Georgia. I really feel that if they can get by Boise this weekend, and then they've got such a great schedule. They only have 4 road games, and none of them are against currently ranked teams. That sets up beautifully for them to make the SEC championship game and then have one game to try to prove that they belong in the BCS. And even if they lose that game, they might be a 1-loss SEC team, which will still make the BCS, in my opinion. So I really think that Georgia, even though a lot of people don't have them on the radar right now, is going to make a pretty deep run this year and surprise a lot of people and make it into a BCS game.
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to go off the radar a little bit. I'm going with a team that's unranked, and I'm going with Utah. I think the situation for them is set up right. Their biggest divisional challenge down there in the Pac-12 South is Arizona State, and they get that game at home. So there's a really good chance that they can beat Arizona State. Obviously, playing out up in the mountains of Utah is going to give them an advantage that they're used to practicing that every day. A lot of teams don't go up and play in the mountains. The atmosphere, the heightened elevation, that's the word I'm looking for, elevation, makes it difficult for a lot of teams to go win in the mountain. Oregon and Stanford are not on their schedule, which are the two main contenders in the Pac-12. When I saw their schedule, I couldn't believe that they didn't get either of them. They get Washington State and Oregon State. They get the easy teams from the north. So if they got to play, so the only meeting with Oregon or Stanford would be in the conference championship game. That's basically they only need one win. USC is still ineligible, so even if they lose to USC in the conference, if USC wins the South, they won't go to the championship game. The next team would go. So that's not something they have to worry about. Plus, this is a program that's been to the BCS, a program that knows how to win, and they're not just a mid-major conference team that's thinking, oh, we can crash the BCS. Now they think we belong in the BCS, and I think they have a good chance to get there.
Yeah, I just wonder how they haven't been quite they've been a shell of the team they were when Urban Meyer was there, and I just wonder if they can step back up into that role. Our next category is the best trouble, and by best trouble we actually mean the worst trouble, but we needed the best to make the whole show fit together. So, Austin, who do you think's in the best trouble?
Well, I'm going to go with Miami. If you haven't heard, then you've probably been living under a rock for all summer, but Miami's being investigated for some illegal benefits given by Nevin Shapiro, who ran a Ponzi scheme, and he used some of the money he gave illegal benefits such as prostitutes and money and food lodging to Miami players and recruits. And so now Miami's in a lot of big trouble. People have actually thrown the death penalty around, thinking that that's a legitimate possibility. And I personally don't think that will happen, but it's a really big deal. They already have 8 players that are ineligible. I expect that number to at least double before the season's over. Players that'll come out on this team as being ineligible. And Miami it's going to be a really difficult road for Al Golden in his first year.
Yeah, I definitely would say the U's in a lot of trouble, but honestly, no one really expected a national championship run out of the U this year. I think that the team that's in the best trouble is LSU. Everyone was looking at this team as a national power coming into this season, and all of a sudden, the week before possibly one of their biggest games of the season, they lose two key players off their team. Now, I'm not saying this is going to take them out of the title race and everything, but I think this could play a huge role throughout the season, and I look for LSU to have some problems with losing these players. So I really think that LSU is going to have the best trouble as of now.
Yeah, we'll have to see how Jarrett Lee steps up at quarterback for LSU. Of course, he's a little experienced, but we'll see how that goes for LSU. Now we're going on to picking games. First is a Friday game. TCU travels to Waco to take on unranked Baylor. Brian, what do you see happening?
Well, I think that I'll see Baylor rush the field in this game, but it'll unfortunately be before the game and not after the game. I think TCU will continue to play well. They made it to a BCS game last year, won a BCS game last year, and I think Andy Dalton was a huge part of that, but I don't think they're going to fall off to a Baylor level. TCU prides himself on defense, and I think they'll be able to slow down Robert Griffin, who's the biggest tool that Baylor uses to win games. So I think that TCU's defense will be able to keep him in check and win this game.
Well, Baylor level isn't what it was 4 years
That's
ago.
True.
Baylor's a lot better now. In part of the aforementioned Griffin III. He is a great dual threat quarterback. He can run the ball, he can throw the ball, and I see Baylor upsetting TCU. They're going to have a new quarterback in, and I just don't know how good he's going to do on a road game for his first NCAA start. I see Baylor pulling off the upset in this one.
All right, next game we're going to look at is the University of Southern Florida at Notre Dame. Austin, who do you like in this game?
Well, I'll pick Notre Dame. South Florida is a really good team out of the Big East. They're a solid 8-win team every year. But I think Notre Dame is going to start feeling the pressure of they need to make the BCS. They're going to feel, I don't want to say obligated, but they're going to feel like that's what they need to do. That's their mission, BCS or bust. And I think Notre Dame is going to step up to the challenge here in Week 1 and knock off USF.
Well, I definitely see what you're saying, and I think Notre Dame is going to start feeling the pressure of the BCS intentions on this season and how everyone has those expectations for them. And I think that they're going to struggle with USF because they're going to be looking ahead to some bigger games in their schedule. But I think Notre Dame is a talented enough team that even when looking past them, they will still be able to handle South Florida. I really like Notre Dame in this game. I think that Brian Kelly's got this team going in the right direction. And I don't think they'll make a BCS game this year, but look for them in the next couple of years to be there.
Really not pick against Notre Dame, Rush. New Hooks can come and kill you in your sleep.
No.
Our next game is going to take place at Cowboy Stadium. It is LSU and Oregon. LSU obviously having all these difficulties with arrests being made on the team, and Oregon also had some trouble being involved with illegitimate recruiter earlier this year. So which of these teams has had some issues in the offseason do you think is going to win this early season matchup?
Well, I really like this game. This is going to be an exciting game to watch. I may even record it because I'm not going to get to watch it tonight. I think this is going to be a great game. But surprisingly enough, after what I said, I think LSU is going to take this game. I really think that Oregon prides itself on fast offense and striking a lot on offense and putting up a lot of points, and then just letting the other team's offense kind of like run its course, but scoring more than them. And LSU prides himself on more defense. And I really think that LSU's defense is going to be able to slow down Oregon's offense just like Auburn did in the title last year. And I think even though LSU is going to have some problems potentially on offense with having their backup quarterback in, I think that it's not going to matter, and they're going to be able to put up more points than Oregon can.
Well, I'm picking Oregon in this game. Last year they made it to the national championship with a freshman quarterback who had to come in and replace Jeremiah Masoli, who got kicked off the team. He's going to be even better and more prepared, after having the experience of playing in a national title game. You got LaMichael James, who is possibly the best running back in the country, and this Oregon offense is completely loaded. I wouldn't be surprised to see them, put 45, 50 points on the board. They are that good. Our final game is going to be Boise State and Georgia. This game is at Georgia. Boise State is this year in the Mountain West Conference. I'm thinking maybe they got a little bit better shot at the BCS.
Yeah, I really like this game too. I think this will be a really exciting game. Boise State finally is going to be playing a major conference team all the way on the road. Now, last year they played Virginia Tech, but it wasn't at Virginia Tech. It was just near Virginia Tech. This is the first time that Boise State's going to be going to a team that is a legitimate contender in their conference. They've traveled to Oregon State. Now, I don't count that. Georgia. You're going to Georgia. You're playing between the hedges, and I think that Boise State's going to have some trouble, and I think that Georgia's going to just be able to strike when they have the chance. I think Georgia's going to take down Boise State in this first game.
Well, I know you think Georgia might be poised to make a run at the SEC this year, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Boise State's going to crush those hopes early here in Week 1. I picked them last year to beat Virginia Tech. They were able to do that, and I think they're going to be able to this year. This team has gotten up for the big games when it mattered. Yes, they faltered against Nevada last year. That was a hard game at a conference road team that they don't like each other. This is a first week of the season. I think Boise State will be prepared more than Georgia is this first week of the season. And I think Boise State will be able to beat them probably by about a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Boise State's going to be really focused, and they know that this is their one chance to prove something in this season, and I think they're going to come out guns blazing. But I think that Georgia's just a better team. So.
Well, you'll have to see this weekend.
Yeah, I will. I think Georgia will take them though.
I think it's Boise. But.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. Feel free to send us questions on Facebook or Twitter, and follow us there at the Sports Bandits. And we'll see you all next week.